Hello, everyone. Welcome into Southeastern 14. I am Blayne Gilmer, and we are here this morning to talk about the LSU Fighting Tigers as they are searching for an entire new defensive coaching staff. Yes, Matt House and the rest of the defensive coaches were let go yesterday, and we are here to tell you what LSU needs from its new defensive coordinator and its new coaches, as now Brian Kelly is searching for coordinators on both sides of the football. But the defensive side is the one that in particular really needs to be revamped. And Brian Kelly saw that and decided to just go ahead and clean house, no pun intended, with Matt House being let go and his assistants over there. So we're going to get into that, and we're going to get into what can happen in Baton Rouge over the next coming days to weeks over there. It's going to be quite interesting as those positions begin to be filled. Now, before we do that, we do have to take care of a little bit of business here. We always want you to subscribe. So if you're not subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Like the video if you think it's worth a like. We really appreciate that. It helps out. And then, of course, turn on notifications. But, guys, also, we are partnered with Bet Online. All of the major sports action is going on right now. The winter sports, NFL, college football, the national championship. You've got NHL, you have the NBA. So it's all hitting right around the same time right now. And there's upcoming UFC fights. Everything that you could want to bet on, it is right here for you. And you can get your odds, the trends, the news, the predictions, everything you want at betonline.ag. Head on over to the website and get into the action and see all of those updated odds, guys. It's important to stay on top of those because depending on injuries, all that kind of stuff, things can change quickly and you can get value for it. So remember to use the promo code BELIEVE. That's all caps, BLEAV, BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts. So where we're going to start is some of the candidates that are already being thrown around out there for LSU as defensive coordinator. I think primarily, first and foremost, the most important thing that can be done for this coaching search is to make sure that you have a guy in there that is going to connect with the players, someone that is going to get the buy-in that the players want to go out and play for and put things on the line for. I think that is the most important factor of any of this in this coaching search for Brian Kelly this time around at LSU. It's not like Matt House was some dinosaur, only 45 years old. However, you could clearly tell by not only the interactions that he had with his own players, but also the reaction from his players at LSU when he was let go on social media, things of that nature, that he did not have a good connection with those guys. And when you spend that much time with those players, okay, I don't know if it was just not being able to relate to them or what, or they were not happy with how they were used, or maybe not happy with how he interacted with them. But it was clear that there was a disconnect between those players in that locker room at LSU and Matt House. Now, I think because of the nature of who Brian Kelly is, and he's a terrific CEO of a program. He's a guy that is going to be a disciplinarian. He's a guy that's going to be buttoned up a lot of the times. He's kind of like a nerdy uncle or grandpa, depending on the age of these guys in the locker room. Most of these guys are going to view him as as Pat McAfee would say, an old white. Okay. So I think when it comes down to it, you need to have someone that is going to bring an energy to this locker room and energy to the defensive side of the ball. That's why I think somebody who has a playing track record, who has the respect of the locker room to say that they've been in there, done things like that before, I think is important. Jim Leonard is a guy who played safety at Wisconsin. who is an analyst at Illinois. I think that's a name that would be a good fit out there. But really, two guys that I think would be SEC experienced and bring a lot of energy, that are young guys that would be able to relate to players, that would recruit well. I think Zach Arnett, 37 years old, who got kind of thrown into the fire as a head coach before he needed to, but as a defensive coordinator, tremendous what he did at Mississippi State for under Mike Leach there. And I think even at times this year, it wasn't the defense's fault at Mississippi State when he was there. Defense played well. He developed those linebackers in Boogie Watson and Jet Johnson over there, and had some very, very impressive defensive performances, even as a head coach with a tough year that they had on the offensive side of the ball. I think Zach Arnett would be a tremendous hire. I think someone like, you don't necessarily, in my opinion, with it being LSU, with the amount of athleticism, the amount of talent that you're going to be able to acquire over there, particularly if it's someone that gets people excited on that side of the ball. I don't know necessarily if it has to be someone that has coordinator experience, but someone that pseudo has coordinator experience would be Travaris Robinson, who is the defensive back coach right now at Alabama. Now, I think it's a deal where you could bring a combo in of a Travaris Robinson and a Zach Arnett and be co-defensive coordinators in terms of the money allocated, different things like that. But Travaris Robinson is a guy who Lane Kiffin credited with calling the defense at Alabama leading into the Ole Miss Alabama game. Lane Kiffin was adamant multiple times, and even to the point where Nick Saban had to answer the question and didn't really answer the question, kind of sidestepped around it of, hey, who's really calling the defense over there? Is it Kevin Steele or is it Travaris Robinson? Lane Kiffin said, hey, this doesn't look like a Kevin Steele defense. This looks like a T-Rob defense over there. This looks like some of the stuff that they're doing different things. I think he's the one calling the plays. So I think obviously he's been under Nick Saban. He's been in that program, knows what it's about. The defensive backs, which he coached at Alabama, played at such a high level this year. And the development that you saw from Terrion Arnold from last year in 2022 to this season in 2023 was tremendous. Brought in a talented player in Caleb Downs and made him, right off the bat into an All-American player there at safety in terms of being able to put him in position to succeed. And that's the other thing, whether it's Jim Leonard, whether it's Travaris Robinson, whether it's Zach Arnett, whether it's some other candidate, you have to take the players you have with the talents that they have and put them in the best position to succeed. I don't think that Harold Perkins has been used right over the last, year and a half. Basically, you have to put him in a position to do what he does best and go get the passer. All this talk about he's going to be a complete linebacker and we're going to move him inside and he's going to learn to, who cares? Use his skill set and go get the quarterback. He can do different things. You don't want him dropping out in pass coverage and things like that. That's like a couple years ago when Alabama started to utilize Will Anderson in a way that was not, really conducive to what he needed to be, the way he needed to be used. When you have guys who are elite on the edge, you need to stand them up and let them go play on the edge. You can move them around. You can move them around in different positions. So it's not predicted, it's not a predicted thing where, hey, okay, Harold Perkins is always going to be right outside of our left tackle. No, you can be creative in how you utilize them in terms of the pre-snap alignment and moving things around like that. But in terms of assignment, let those guys pin their ears back and go play. And you need someone, a defensive coordinator, who is going to understand that. Also, it doesn't hurt to have guys who have ties to the state, have ties to the program. I think it would be a home run hire at the position coaches if they could bring Corey Redmond in as a defensive back coach. That is, if T-Rob doesn't come in some capacity. Also, Bo Davis, defensive line coach at Texas, I think would be a home run hire if they could do that. But listen, with those guys having been around and where they're at, that you may have to promise some kind of co-defensive coordinator role, and it's not going to be cheap. Now the buyout for this staff being gone is, upwards of $6 million when it's all said and done at LSU. A lot of money that is being spent to get rid of the current coaching staff, and they're going to have to spend money to get a good new coaching staff in there. But I think overall, guys, when it comes down to it, the pillars of what you're looking for at LSU is someone who brings energy, brings excitement, relates to the players. That is first and foremost. What is that connection piece like? How do they establish that rapport in terms of just relationships with recruits, with guys who are coming in the portal, with guys who are currently on the roster? I think first and foremost, that is the biggest thing that Brian Kelly needs to look for. Maybe somebody that complements his own personality, so to speak. 2, I think you need to find someone who is going to utilize the skill set of the players that he has and mold their philosophy and mold their scheme to that skill set. To, okay, what do our players do well? Just because I like to play, a bunch of split safety coverage, and because I like to play a 4-man front or whatever like this, whatever the personnel you have there dictates, that's what you need to run. Run the scheme based off of what you have, and that is part of being flexible, understanding football, understanding schemes, and I think whoever comes in is going to need to be able to do that as well. And then the last thing, someone who is going to be able to recruit, is going to be able to say, hey, this is what I'm about. Look those parents in the eye and say, here's how I'm going to utilize your son. Here's how your son is going to develop under me. Look at my track record of how I've developed X player, this guy, that guy, things of that nature, and give them some concrete proof and evidence, and someone who's not going to be shy about getting relationships built within the state of Louisiana, because that is the most important thing that you can do as a coach in any kind of power position there at LSU. I think, like I said, Zach Arnett, Jim Leonard, Travaris Robinson, Bo Davis, any of those type of guys would do that kind of thing. Now, if you wanted to bring in some dynamic position coaches in T-Rob and give him a co-defensive coordinator role, Bo Davis, and give him a co-defensive coordinator role, or Corey Redmond, things of that nature, I would swing out of my shoes and go get a guy like Phil Parker at Iowa. Now you say, Iowa, what's going on there? Well, they play tremendous defense, but Phil Parker has to be tired of he's the Broyles Award winner. He year in and year out designs defenses that just stifle people, but has to do it every single possession because their offense up there cannot score. Their biggest weapon up there offensively is their punter, where they flip the field position and things like that. They cannot score. You would think he would get tired of that after a little while. Listen, Kurt Ferentz, Brian Kelly, both stately, stoic type men. I think there would be an interest in him, coming down and working for a guy like that. But you would need dynamic position coaches, guys who could really pick up that connection piece around him if that were to happen. Guys, that's just my thoughts on what LSU needs to do at defensive coordinator. Please let me know yours. Like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Remember, we are presented by Bet Online. We will catch you guys next time to talk more LSU and more SEC football right here on Southeastern 14.